You guys are going to be great, I can tell. Okay, so my name is Amanda Maselli. I am the Community Agriculture and Sustainability Services Manager. Yes?
I didn't get a note sheet.
Yes, so I didn't have enough. I wasn't given enough for everyone, but they said that you have them on Teams. And so you can either take digital notes. What I was just told is you can take digital notes or you can get it in Teams. Okay. I'm the Community Agriculture and Sustainability Services Manager for the City of Alpharetta. I work in Recreation and Parks, and I've been with the city for 7 years. Prior to that, I worked in food retail. I worked for Whole Foods Market for almost 14 years in many capacities. So I've worked in food retail, food production, food distribution, food rescue for longer than y'all have been alive. So it's a great industry to work in. I'm really passionate about the work that I do because everybody eats. There's not a person walking on this planet that doesn't eat food, so everybody needs it. It's an essential to live. So it's an important thing to be passionate about. It's an important thing to have access to. And so it's an important conversation to have. So the discussion today is going to take us looking at 3 kind of big pieces of food insecurity. The issue of food insecurity. We're going to talk about these things kind of separately, then we're going to pin them for you to research more later. And then we're going to do a survey together at the end. But we're going to have conversation throughout. Okay? All ready? Okay, so first thing we're going to do is go back in history. And so we're going to look at farms over the last 80 years. And what did agriculture look like in this country in the last 80 years? So back in 1940, the average price of an acre of land, an acre of farmland in the United States cost $32. The average size of farms in this country in 1940 was 174 acres. That sounds like a lot. 174 acres sounds like a lot to us who live in a suburban area where most of our yards are 1/3 of an acre. 174 acres sounds like a lot. But in reality, for farms, it's really not. It's considered a small farm. So the majority of farms in this country, nearly 7 million of them, most of them were family-owned and considered small. And 17% of American workforce worked in agriculture or an agriculture-related field.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope that everybody who was able to go to a seminar during the first time slot enjoyed it. If you signed up for a second seminar, please head to that location. The time starts at 2:55. We also have some spots open in the second seminar, so if it is okay with your camp leader and there's another workshop that you would like to attend, please feel free to go on the event website and sign up for another seminar. Thanks.
Okay, so then we're going to move forward 20 years. By 1960, World War II has ended, and now we're looking at the price of farmland going for, with inflation adjustment, $921 an acre. So we went from $32 an acre to $921 in 20 years. The average size of a farm in 1960 was about double what it was 20 years prior. Almost 300 acres for the average size of farm. There were less than 4 million farms in the country, whereas just 20 years ago there were 7 million. You guys are following this, right? And only 8% of the workforce works in agriculture. So you're seeing this trend here. And here's where we are today. The average price of an acre of farmland in the United States is $4,080. The average size of a farm is almost 500 acres. And only 10% of the workforce works in agriculture-related field, and there are less than 2 million farms in this country. You're seeing a trend here, yes? Yes. Okay. What other trend can you see just looking at this map? Yes, majority of the farms are all right here in the middle of the country. Yes, 90 or more % of the farms are there. So So another way to look at this data is to see this line graph where you have the number of farms, the size of farms. You see the number of farms has gone down while the size of them has gone up. And that's why we get this X right here. So our food production, obviously, is consolidating. The land that's dedicated to growing food, what we all need to survive, come on in, is shrinking. The farms are fewer but larger, and the cost of farmable land is very high. Why do we think this is happening? Why are we consolidating? Yes?
Because of modern tech allowing us to farm like more productively.
Yes. Yes, very good. More productive farming? Yes. What else?
Growth of monopolies.
Some monopolies, some agricultural monopolies? Yes. What else?
Just the price of land going up overall, which makes it harder for people with lower incomes to buy out these lands.
Definitely. Yeah, it's hard to start. It would be hard to start farming today. Yes.
The fact that more companies are trying to find more land for distribution centers and all kinds of stuff. That would be kind of the reason why.
Yep, they're building other things. Industry. Industry is being built on agricultural land. Yes.
So subsidies kind of, they give money towards the highest paying, or the highest producing farms, and those make up a very small percentage of the overall farms that exist in the United States, hence the number of farms are reducing.
Yes. The number of farms is a smaller percentage than it was 80 years ago. Yes. Yes. And somebody touched on efficiencies, right? So having the consolidation, our farms being consolidated, what does that do to efficiency in the industry? Think about all the pieces. Yeah. Could. It could. Think about transportation. Yes.
Harder to distribute across the country if it's all coming from one region.
Definitely. It's definitely hard. I'm going to go back to this map to get from this farm right here up here, where there are really no farms or very few farms, less than 10% of farms up in this area or over here. That's quite a distance to travel. Have you all in your research for this topic come across the average food mile? Have you heard that phrase in your research? So an average food mile for anything that's on your plate this evening at dinner, it probably traveled between 1,500 and 2,000 miles to get to your plate. So that's what this is, getting all the way up here or getting all the way to us. Average food miles about 1,500 miles. So yes, it takes a lot more to get it from the middle of the country out to the sides. At the same time, if you have a consolidation of farms in one area, you can send all the trucks there. You can have very specific routing for your trucks with very specific stops for refrigeration and smaller distribution outlets. So you can take things to a large centrally located distribution center, and then smaller trucks can take it out to secondary markets. Does that make sense? So there are some benefits and some efficiencies that can be found in consolidation. The industrialization of agriculture, really. This is what happened in many of our industries in the last 100 years. So, let's see, where were we? We were here. So this loss of agricultural land to grow food is a huge issue. It's a huge issue for us as people who need to eat. And it's a huge issue because, as you said, new farmers can't enter the market. It's really hard to make a living selling vegetables if you've paid $4,000 an acre for that land. Those turnips or those tomatoes have to be really expensive. If you paid $30 an acre, it's a whole different story. It's easy to make a living and support your family on land that was affordable. But does anyone know what the average price per acre here is in our community? What a vacant piece of land goes for? Yes, sir.
Say about 6 to 7 grand.
6 to 7
6 to 7,000.
for 1 acre? Keep going.
Half an acre.
Based on what I've seen, maybe like $500,000.
Closer.
Maybe 250 to 500,000.
Close. 250 is closer. It's about 150,000, 100 to 150,000, depending on amenities that have on it, buildability, so on and so forth. But a vacant piece of land in this area is averaging $100,000 to $150,000. That's with no house on it. So if you're going to, let's say you wanted to buy that land as a farmer, you've got to sell a lot of turnips or a lot of eggs or whatever it is that you're growing to make that mortgage payment to the bank every month. You're not going to have much left over. So it's harder for new farmers to enter the market. It's also nearly impossible for an old farmer to not sell their land. So do you know if your parents have retirement funds? Yes, I have one. 401ks, some type of retirement situation. I have a retirement account because my employer provides that to me. Do farmers have that? No, their retirement fund is their land. So it's nearly impossible for a farmer to not sell their land. And then if that land is their retirement, do you think they're going to sell it at a discount? No, because they need that, right? If they have medical emergencies down the road, they're going to need that money. So it's impossible for a new farmer to enter the market. It's also impossible for an old farmer not to sell their land to industrial and commercial. They're going to get top dollar for that. Industrial and commercial land is going to sell for a lot more than agricultural land. So we see it happening all over, all over. Okay, so we're going to take that, kind of put it in your mind. We're going to move to our second big bucket of discussion, and then we're bringing it all together, okay? Maybe. Not. Hold on, I have one more thing to say. Sorry. Okay, so what does it mean when few of us live near farms? When we don't have the ability to see these things, we don't come into contact. Yes, sir? We pay more? Yes? Lack of fresh produce? Yes? Yes. And a lack of awareness. So we only see in our day-to-day life what we come into contact with. And we only know what we know. So let me ask you this. Who saw the scarecrows in downtown Alpharetta last month? Like everybody. Yeah? Who saw the Christmas decorations going up? The holiday lights. Big tree on the town green. Yeah. We all saw that because we drove by it. It's a familiar thing to us. When we see something different, when we see something change, we notice it, right? That's what we see every day when we're driving to school or we're going wherever. We drive by housing developments and retail developments. We would notice if a new Starbucks opened. Yeah? Would we have an opportunity to see a farmer out planting corn? No. Would we see that farmer harvesting corn? No. Would we know if that farmer's corn got destroyed by hail or flood? Yes. How? We would see the impact at the stores, yes. But would you see it on your drive to school? No. We wouldn't. We wouldn't even be aware of it until months later or weeks later when it hit us in our pocketbook at the store. So we wouldn't have an opportunity to go out and help them or offer any kind of assistance. So, okay, now we're going to bookmark this. And this is the issue of us having a separation from farms, having a separation from agriculture, which seems crazy when we all need food. Because if we don't have it, if we're that far separated from the food that we eat, we don't live. We die. So to have that separation seems kind of crazy. Okay. Now we're going to move to the bucket number 2, which is food insecurity. And according to the USDA, food insecurity means that at times during the year, a person's access to adequate food for active, healthy living is limited by a lack of money or other resources. It's further defined as a household-level economic and social condition of limited and uncertain access to adequate food. That's the USDA's definition. An estimated 13.5% of U.S. households were food insecure at least sometime during the year in 2023. About 58% of food insecure households participated in one or more of the 3 largest federal nutrition assistance programs from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. There's Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which is called SNAP. It's also known as SNAP. The Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children, it's called WIC. And then the National School Lunch Program. So if you haven't ever heard of those programs before, if you are working in food security or food access, you will come across those terms in your life, in your career. Food insecurity affects 14.3 million households, or 37.2 million Americans. As a percentage, more people who live in rural areas are food insecure than people living in urban areas. Approximately 3 million rural households are food insecure, which is equal to about 15% of rural population. And when we look at the total number of people, that number is higher for urban areas due to population density. So we live closer together in suburban and urban areas, so the number is higher, but only because we live closer together. There's more of us pushed together. The USDA administers 16 domestic food nutrition assistance programs that affects the lives of millions of people and accounts for roughly 2/3 of the USDA's annual budget. 2/3, that's 60% of the USDA's budget. So the USDA also offers support to farmers, to growers, okay? But 2/3 of their budget is spent on food assistance programs. Federal spending on USDA food and nutrition assistance program totaled $166.4 billion in fiscal 23. Over a typical year, about 1 in 4 people in the United States participates in at least one of these programs. So that's our neighbors, our friends, our grandparents. This issue of food insecurity and hunger affects a lot of people. Probably people that you don't even know it affects. It's affecting them. And then it's kind of separated by region. So regionally, food insecurity rates are the highest in the South at 12%. States experience food insecurity rates differently, and food insecurity is the highest where the states are this like reddish color. So aside from having the commonality of food insecurity, what else do these states have in common? Population, okay. Location, yeah. Climate, thank you. Yes, that's what I was looking for, climate. Can you go outside in flip-flops right now in Wisconsin? No. You think you could sprout some lettuce in Wisconsin right now? No. So why do you think that the states that have the climate most agreeable to growing food year-round also have the highest rates of food insecurity?
They're not really metropoles. I guess they're being exploited.
Possibly. Yes. Yes, they're not growing crops that are meant for consumption. What are they growing? Things that are used for fuel or animal feed. Yes? Somebody in the back was going to say something. Yes. Growing crops for export, yes. Yes, someone said in the class earlier, the people who are growing the food are the ones who are hungry. Doesn't that seem wrong? Why not? So they might have their own garden at home where they might be growing soybeans for fuel or for animal feed. They may also have like a family garden to grow things for their family. Very, very possibly. Very possibly, yes. And that's really how it was back in 1940 on that trip down history that we were looking at earlier. Yes, everyone had a garden in their backyard. But what we see today is that that has been forgotten by a lot of us. We've forgotten how to grow things. I see it all the time at the farm that I manage. When people come to visit, they tell me, I can't grow anything. I don't know how to do this. And I like to tell them that if you've really forgotten, you wouldn't be here. So it's in our DNA to know how to put a seed in the ground and grow food from it. We've just separated ourselves from it over the last few generations. So, okay, while we have all this food growing and all of these people who are struggling with food insecurity and hunger, we also see that in this country, nearly 40% of the food that we grow is wasted. And when I say wasted, I mean put in the trash and put in the landfill. Some of this waste occurs at institutions like schools or restaurants or universities or big stadiums. But the vast majority of food waste happens in our houses. So almost 40% of food waste comes out of our own homes. So that means we're buying more than we need, and we're throwing it away. When we know that more than 37 million of our neighbors are hungry, we're throwing away food that could be feeding them. In the US, we waste 92 billion pounds of food annually. That equals 145 billion meals. We throw away over $473 billion worth of food every year, and most of us don't even think about it. This statistic here says that only 26% of Americans have really given it much thought and searched for it online in the last 12 months. So we don't even think about it. We just throw it away because we know there'll be more. Have we all done this? Or you clean out the fridge, there's food that you didn't eat, you throw it away. We'll just go to the store and we'll get more. Right? It happens. It happens. So food gets wasted because of things like odd shape. So it comes out of the field, it doesn't look right. When you go to the store to buy carrots, all your carrots look exactly the same, don't they? Who's grown carrots? Well, I'm sorry, I'm asking this. Like in this room, has anyone grown carrots at home? Yeah. Or tomatoes or any vegetable. Do they look exactly uniform? No. They're all twisted around each other. They're going in different directions. But the ones at the store are all perfectly uniform. But they still have weird-looking carrots that come out of the field, and so those get wasted. Or they get to the grocery store, and the grocery store wastes them. They've reached their sell-by date at the grocery store, and so it gets wasted. Or it gets damaged during transport. A case falls off the truck, and everything gets bruised, and it gets wasted. Fortunately, there are a lot of organizations that have developed over the last few years called food rescue or food recovery agencies. There's one here in Atlanta called Second Helpings, ATL. Maybe your family volunteers with them. You can sign up and go pick up food at Whole Foods or Costco or Sam's Club, and you put it in the trunk of your car and you deliver it to the food bank. It takes you about 30 minutes to do that. They give you a route. These are food recovery agencies. You sign up online to be a volunteer to rescue this food. These organizations partner with food donors like grocery stores or schools or restaurants or even corporate cafeterias, and they collect the food that didn't sell or wasn't served, and then they get it to families that need it. So sometimes this rescued food is distributed as is. They might recover some tomatoes, and then those tomatoes are directly distributed to families as tomatoes. Sometimes those tomatoes are taken to a commissary kitchen and turned into tomato soup or tomato sauce, and then distributed through like a Meals on Wheels program as hot, ready-to-eat food. So it kind of depends on the model. Food waste is a major contributor to climate change. So it's not only a problem of us not getting food to people who are hungry, it's also the main contributor to climate change. It's responsible for 8% of all global carbon emissions, making up the most item in our landfills. Growing food requires a lot of water, fuel, and fertilizer. So we're spending a lot of resources, time, and energy to get that food in the field to grow into, to get those seeds in the field to grow into food. If we waste it, we've not only wasted that food, but we've also wasted the time, the energy, the water, the resources, the fuel to grow that food. So it's a lot of waste that's built into food waste. Do y'all understand that? And I think I just misspoke and said it's the largest contributor of methane gas. I misspoke. So I was talking too fast. It is not the largest contributor, but it is a major contributor. Just want to make sure I'm not giving you guys misinformation. Okay, so here's my question for you. Would you throw these away? Sure. Really? Would you throw these away? No. You sell them? You'd sell them? Give it to someone who wants one? Okay, but would you put it in the landfill? No. Would you put this in, would you throw it away? Right. Okay, what if you had a bunch of extras? Like you just had like a whole bunch of extra Lamborghinis. You wouldn't. I think you get my point. Right? Like you wouldn't throw something away just because you had extra and you knew you could go buy another one tomorrow, right? So why do we value a Stanley or a Lamborghini more than we value food? The Lamborghini? Yeah. Stanley cup? Yeah. Still expensive for a cup? Yes. Can be used more than once. Okay. Availability of these things, so they're scarce. Yeah, good. Today. Yes. Status symbol. Yes. All of those things. And yet not, well, where's my picture of the Lamborghini? Can we eat these? No. If we're hungry, are we going to sustain ourselves gnawing on a Stanley cup? No. Then what is the status symbol? Gnawing on a Stanley cup? You're hungry. You're not alive. So we have this like strange convoluted construct of value. So we have a lot of things at play that are contributing to food scarcity. And I'm trying to just give you a little taste of these little things in this conversation. Okay, so what are we going to do? So what I would like for you guys to do is get your phones out. And I would like for you to go to menti.com and enter this code. We're going to do like a little interactive survey. menti.com. Is everybody there? Yes? Everybody's there? Okay, so you can reply. Do we have a food scarcity issue? Food scarcity, food insecurity? Or do we have a transportation issue? Okay. How about at school? Yeah. You have garden. By show of hands, say everybody. By show of hands, who has garden in your elementary or middle school?
It's blown out on that side. You can't see anything. What? It's blown out on that side. You can't see anything.
Look over here. Look, you see that space over there?
I'm gonna go here over.
about it. You can put in a one-word phrase. Jeffrey. Okay. Has everyone put in at least one thing? All right. Who wants to talk about something that you put up here? Yes.
Farming?
Farming. Talk about it.
I think that if like a lot of people, if farming becomes more common and more accessible to people, because farming is so inaccessible. So you have to be stupid rich to have a farm, which I'm personally recommend. But farming, everyone can like, or not everyone, but like people can make their own food and it can be more, it also builds community. You know, having local farmers markets and being friends with farmers, and you guys can share food. It's awesome. Actually, that is good. It not only helps solve the issue of food scarcity, but also builds community. It makes everybody kind of close together.
Who else would like to share what you're going to do? Yes. Everybody, I can't hear.
Promote some form of relief to families with children is childcare is very expensive, and that's one of the main issues of food scarcity is the cost of it, cost of living. So child relief forms like child tax reliefs, some form of some credit given out for families in underprivileged areas, like some way to take a load of childcare off of the families, because that would not only help the child but also the families who are struggling with that.
Yeah, that's great. Childcare is huge. It is huge. That's great. I love that. Yes.
Volunteering time and money to community gardens and food banks, and then trying, if able to, seeking out local resources.
Love it. Has anyone volunteered at North Fulton Community Charities Food Pantry? Yes. It's a great place to volunteer, and actually the farm that I manage, all of our food goes there. So we harvest every Friday. If you have a Flex Friday and you want to sign up to come harvest, we do a community harvest every Friday, and all the food goes to the food bank. Sorry? Yes, so you can go to Old Rucker Farm, you Google Old Rucker Farm, and then you can go to our volunteer tab and sign up. What else? What else do you guys, up here, what are some other things that you're going to do to address this issue? Jeffrey, what are you going to do? Well, now that I know your name, I can...
Start out with a backyard garden.
Start a backyard garden, absolutely.
And garden.
And you can share with your neighbors. So, who asked this in the last group, who lives in a neighborhood that has an HOA? Almost everybody. Do you know if your HOA allows gardens? Does yours? It does. Does yours? Yes. No. Jeffrey's does not. Does yours? Yes. Yes? Some do, no. So it's about 50-50. Some do and some don't. Some only allow it in the backyard as long as it's not visible from the street. And And most of them do not allow things like backyard chickens or backyard beekeeping. So that is a very local way. Are y'all listening? It's a very local way that you can impact your community's access to food in a very local way. If your own neighborhood is outlining your ability to grow fresh food, you have the ability to change that because you live there. And your household has one vote in the change of those rules. So that's something you could look into, like when you go home, and address the laws that are impacting your streets and your neighborhood.
Oh, great.
Stressful. All right, so what questions do you guys have? Ask me some questions. Yes. You're welcome. What else? You guys are working on some projects this week. Do you want to ask any questions related to that?
Are we able to volunteer at the farm?
Yes. Yes, actually there's a person in the class earlier that was there a couple of weeks ago. Your Flex Fridays are really great for that because our community harvest is on Friday mornings, and so you can sign up.
Where is that?
Old Rucker Farm. We're right on Rucker between Charlotte and Broadwell. Yes.
Have you ever worked with any like lawmakers to like maybe help this issue with farmers?
So I've worked with lawmakers here locally to advocate for things like more education positions in schools and in our community. But I work for the city of Alpharetta, and so I don't own a farm. So I try to do what they say, stay in your lane. And so I am about educating our community about agriculture. And I am a member of the National Young Farmers Association, which is definitely a great advocacy organization for you to look up. There's two different organizations. There's a Young Farmer chapter that has like state chapters, and then there's the National Young Farmer organization, and both of them advocate on behalf of farmers and help with things like the Farm Bill. Yeah, so I think that'd be a great place for you to start.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes.
What kinds of plants does Old Rucker Farm grow, and where does the food go to?
So we grow a variety. We have a highly diversified crop plan. So right now there's probably 20 or so different things that we're growing. And the majority of our food goes to North Fulton Community Charities Food Pantry. We do have a partnership with Cambridge High School, so they're ag business students, they're seniors, and they are at the farm 5 days a week with their ag business class. And so they sell shares of produce in boxes called CSA shares, which stands for Community Supported Agriculture. They sell the eggs, they sell the honey. That's about maybe 5 to 10% of the harvest. The rest of it goes to the food bank.
And then I was just wondering, because I've heard do food banks usually take the produce? Because I've heard that they tend to prefer like canned goods.
No, actually, the food banks love fresh produce. It's the least thing that they get because it is very volatile. It needs to be refrigerated. It can be fragile. But it's the least thing that they get because grocery stores have gotten really good at leaning in their operation, so they only order what they think is going to sell. So if you go to a grocery store at 8:45 at night, the produce racks are going to be relatively empty. It didn't used to be that way, but they've leaned up in order to shrink their margins. So the food bank gets a lot of bread. They get a lot of canned things, non-perishable foods. The perishable things, the produce and the meat, they don't get very much of. So they're very excited when they produce that comes from grocery stores through food rescue organizations is typically stuff, like I mentioned, that's not good enough to sell. So what we deliver is harvested that day. It's very fresh. It looks amazing. But what's going to come from Costco or Sam's Club or Whole Foods is going to be the stuff that isn't good enough to sell. So it's not going to be top quality. Yes, sir.
What are some of the limitations farms might face when trying to like help with food scarcity and food insecurity?
So many. There are so many limitations that a farm would face. So I just mentioned that we have a highly diversified crop plan. We can have a highly diversified crop plan because we do everything manually. Everything at Old Rucker Farm is at the human scale. So I don't need to have very large machinery to harvest the crop. I use my hands, and I will teach you how to use your hands to do that. But if I was harvesting 1,000 acres of something, I would need a machine to do that. Or even if I was harvesting 10 acres, I would need a machine to do that. And a machine to harvest potatoes is different than the machine to harvest carrots. So the limitation is there in equipment. So that's often why farms will have a limited number of things that they grow, because that equipment is very expensive. Very expensive. So that's one. Then second would be distribution. So where those potatoes might go, need to go in a different direction than where those carrots might go. And if they need to harvest it all today because there's a lot of rain coming in, where are they going to put them? So they have to harvest today because the rain is coming, but the truck isn't going to come until next week. So they have a storage. They could have a storage issue. They could have a refrigeration, large-scale refrigeration issue. They could have transportation issues. They could have a demand issue. There are so many issues that farmers could face, and my hope to being here with you today was to give you a tiny little sampling to kind of open up your eyes to see why this issue is so complicated, and there isn't one fix to it. There's not like one pill that's going to solve this problem. It's going to require so many different ways of looking at this issue and coming at it, from production, transportation, to storage, to marketing, to education. It all across. There's a part for you to play in the solution, no matter what your interest is. This is an issue, and it's an issue that if we don't solve it, it's going to affect you.
What are some more like positive ways you could use the crops that get wasted because they're like improper and imperfect?
Is there that last part I missed?
What are some ways that farms can like use the improper or like imperfect vegetables to actually like help out with other areas?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great idea. Great question. So this is happening right now, where like the Atlanta Community Food Bank, they have a program. They work with the SERC, S-E-R-C. Y'all can look it up. It stands for Southeast Regional Cooperative. And what they do in the entire Southeast is they go around and they buy what is called farm seconds. Can you guys imagine what is farm seconds? Yes. The stuff that's left in the field. The stuff that is otherwise going to get wasted are called farm seconds. So these might be potatoes that are kind of weird shaped, or carrots that instead of having one carrot, you've seen them before when they look like legs, right? Yeah, right? So they're not going to sell that in the store, but it's still a carrot. So the CERC buys these seconds from farmers and then takes them and processes them. So that's where if you get sweet potato fries, you buy a frozen bag of sweet potato fries, that's where that came from. They were not using perfect looking sweet potatoes to make fries. They're using the seconds that don't look great. They can't be sold. So there is definitely a market for those things. And the majority of food that comes out of